Thank you, Mazen, and thank you to everyone at MPAC. Salam, I remember it was, about 17 years ago, you came into the DOJ for the first time, meeting with you on that first floor office, and what is this MPAC? Hearing about it, and it's been a wonderful partnership ever since with you and Hoda and everyone else, and I thank you deeply for this great honor tonight. I want to talk about someone else from the Department of Justice, who was the Assistant Attorney General for 2 years, 1965 to 1967. It was John Doerr. Wonderful man. If any of you have seen the movie Mississippi Burning, he was the prosecutor at the head of the Civil Rights Division who brought that case to bring the killers of those civil rights workers who were slain to justice. He also is the man who, he had been a friend of Medgar Evers, went to his funeral, and then there was a near riot when there were peaceful marchers, and then some police who were getting jittery who were trying to stop them from marching down the street. He actually put himself in his shirt sleeves in the middle of that crowd and talked the peaceful marchers down, saying, "This is not the time. I'm here from the Department of Justice. I will work with you, but these men are getting jittery, and there's going to be a bloodbath here." And he averted another bloody Sunday by his bravery. But I want to talk about something a little more simple that he did. And he was a lawyer from Wisconsin, grew up, didn't know any African American people, was a man of a conservative upbringing. But he had a deep and abiding belief in American government. And he recognized in the plight of African Americans in the 60s that we were not living up to our system. He did an interview with C-SPAN when he won the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and he kept going back to the same phrase. I watched this, and I kept seeing he was going back to the same phrase. He says, it was not an honest system of self-government. He went down to Haywood County, Tennessee, where he'd heard that there were these sharecroppers who had been trying to register to vote. And so what happened was the bankers, the landowners, all the people with money in the area got together and said, we're just going to turn them out. So all these people had been turned out. And he went to this little church, over 100 people there, everyone had been turned out, and he looked out at them and he just said, this is not America. It was that principle. It was not an honest system of self-government. And it was that principle. And it's the same thing for me with religious freedom. I mean, everyone at the Civil Rights Division is inspired by John Doerr. But those words really inspired me because it's that principle of religious freedom. It goes back to George Washington in his letter to the Hebrew congregation in Newport, Rhode Island, where he said it's no more that tolerance is spoken of as if it were the indulgence of one class of people, that another enjoyed the exercise of their inherent natural rights. So it wasn't an indulgence, it wasn't a gift from the state, it's your inherent natural right. James Madison, architect of our Constitution, had said the same thing. It says it's our duty to give to our Creator such homage and such homage only as a person believes to be acceptable to him. And that duty is precedent to one's duty to civil society, that fundamental right of conscience to follow God as you see him is fundamental. And so religious liberty is fundamental. And that's why we honor it, not because we're being kind to people and it's good to be kind, but that's not ultimately why. It's also, someone mentioned before that, we look out for you and you look out for us. That's good. You never know when you're the one whose rights are going to be violated. So it's good that you're doing it for someone else, they're going to do it for you. But that's not it, really. It comes down to, it is a fundamental principle. That's the reason we put it first in the Constitution. It's why it's worth sending in the federal government when it's violated. It's worth my time and it's worth your time and energy to fight for this principle. Now, before 9/11, I was at the Beckett Fund. I had a couple Muslim clients. We represented some police officers in Newark, New Jersey who wanted to wear beards. We represented an imam who joined with a coalition that was suing over censorship of chaplains in the military. But Muslim religious freedom wasn't really top of mind, but the principle for me always was. And then when this principle began to be challenged, when you saw a spike in hate crimes after 9/11, when you saw, really starting about 2010, we saw mosque construction being challenged, and basically fundamental right to just get together and worship. Nothing more basic, no more, if you can't do that, all the other religious freedoms we're fighting for don't mean much. If you can't walk down the street in peace, and if you can't get together with your community to worship. As Mazen said, we had this situation in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is really, really rather striking, that the town did the right thing. It approved the mosque because they said if it was a church, we'd have approved it, given that zoning, and it's a big enough parcel, they have got the acreage, they can have a mosque. But then townspeople sued to try to stop it in state court. And the reasons they gave, some of the people were just oblivious. It was sort of an oblivious cluelessness, where they said, well, where are these people coming from? Why are they choosing to come here? Well, no, they had been there for 20 years worshiping in a rented space, and they just had gotten enough money together to build a proper mosque. But then there were others that were more pernicious. I mean, there were people who were saying, well, Islam is not a religion. People were saying, well, their plans, they show that they want to build a swimming pool. That must be for some kind of terrorist training operations. Instead of, it's Middle Tennessee, it's hot. Their kids want to swim. But we ended up having to go to court before a federal judge for the first time. We researched this since the 60s, where a federal judge had to override and order a state judge to undo their decision. Really quite striking, and it continues to this day. We're defending many different religious groups in their zoning trouble. Sometimes it's small Christian congregations, minority groups, or just a small storefront group, or a Hindu congregation, or Muslim congregations, or Orthodox Jews who have run into a lot of trouble. We just settled a case involving a cemetery in Farmersville, Texas. In April, we settled that, where there's, again, a lot of anti-Muslim bias. And we do it, it's the neighborly thing to do, but it's the right thing to do, and it's the American thing to do. It's our fundamental right of religious freedom at stake. And that's why I do it, and that's why we should all fight for this. And so I just want to exercise my religious liberty and thank God for giving me the opportunity to do this kind of work. And I want to bless you all, and God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you.